Hello, everybody, and welcome to another very special session with CFO Connect. My name is Luke, and I am the community manager at CFO Connect. And we are here today with Anabelle Lorbois, VP of Finance from PayFit. And we have a topic that is near and dear to many finance professionals, and that is the topic of tools. And I think everybody here is obviously very aware of all the tools out there. And we'll be spending today going in with Anabelle on her tool stack and how she uses it to drive growth and results with her finance team. So usually we ask all of the viewers to say where they're coming from and where they're watching from. However, just to stay on theme today, I will ask all of you to share your favorite finance tool. So that can be the type of finance tool, whether it's accounting, spend management, or even if you want to call out the tool specifically, go ahead. We have no bias, we have no preferences. So whatever tool you like to use, whatever is your go-to tool that you could not live without, please share it in the chat. We would love to know what tool you'd love to use. And we'll be asking this question as well to Anabelle later on in the session, but right now, no spoiler alerts. So Anabelle, how's it going, and where are you tuning in from?
So hi everyone, I'm doing well, super happy to be with you, and I'm in PayFit's office in Paris.
Very nice. So I am based in Berlin, and before we get started, just a couple housekeeping stuff. If you have any questions, we have a dedicated questions tab below. So those questions will be answered at the end of the session. Also, this recording will be sent to everybody after the session is over, so you can rewatch it. So keep an eye out through your email. If you don't know CFO Connect, and if this is your first time joining, CFO Connect is a community of finance professionals. We host events and workshops like this one on a regular basis. We have a private Slack group for CFOs, and we curate content for finance leaders to help you be the best leader you can. And CFO Connect is powered by Spendesk. Spendesk is a 7-in-1 spend management solution built and designed for the modern finance professional. We help finance stay in complete control and have visibility over everything that is spent. So that's it for the introduction, for the housekeeping stuff. So let's start off with Anabelle. Can you please give us a brief intro about where you come from, your experience, and what you're doing today at PayFit?
Yes, sure. So today I work at PayFit. I am VP Finance and interim CFO since February. I joined 2 years ago the company. And just a few words about PayFit. For those who don't know yet that company, we are a payroll provider. We provide payroll to small and medium businesses as well as HRIS services. It was created in 2016. We operate in France, in Spain, and in the UK. A few metrics maybe. When I started 2 years ago, ARR was around 30 million euros with 600 employees, and today it has more than doubled in terms of ARR, and we are nearly 900 employees. So career-wise now, I started as an auditor a long time ago at PricewaterhouseCoopers. I stayed there about 3 years, and then I joined a listed company in the hospitality market called Accor. They have many hotels around the world, and I spent 11 years in that group in different positions, both in the headquarters. I did some consolidation stuff and also in business units as business partner, both in France and overseas in Latin America. And my last experience at Accor was in a subgroup that had been acquired called John Paul. And I stayed there 4 years. And that was actually my first experience in a less processed company. And there I had the opportunity to implement my first tool, named My Report. And also I had the opportunity to internalize the consolidation process. And as I'm talking about that experience, I would like to say hi to my previous colleagues there. I'm sure they're attending. So hi Fabien, hi Elisabeth. Talking about that experience, that's how I realized actually that I really enjoyed structuring the finance department with people, with process, and of course with tools. And that is with that objective and purpose that I joined PayFit 2 years ago.
Cool, thank you for that. And I love the shout out to your former colleagues, super nice. So without further ado, let's jump into the heart of the topic. And so we have prepared a fancy little diagram to actually show you the PayFit's tool stack. So I think, can you let me know if you can see the diagram, because we were having a bit of technical issues previously. If somebody confirm yes, you see it? Okay, thank you. So without further ado, so this is essentially what Anabelle works with on a regular basis. And so a very first broad question to Anabelle is just, can you please give us an overview of the tool stack we see in front of us and how each tool works with one another, and kind of like what is your overall philosophy of using all these tools?
Okay, sure. I will go with you through the stack here, maybe step by step as we build it, and maybe a bit of context before diving into the stack. 2 years ago, PayFit was already a super fast growing company with 5 entities within Europe, just about to fundraise money with its Series E. And at that time, we had only a couple of tools. Basically, we had just implemented GoCardless and Ziora, an invoicing tool. But then we were working with G-Sheet and Looker. So the first observation was that we needed to make our closing process more robust and more reliable and make it a bit faster so that teams could spend more time on valuable analysis. So how did it work? The first thing we were missing actually was a control on expenditure initiation. We had a low control. We were missing visibility on that initiations and on budget conceptions. So the objective here was to be exhaustive in our accrual bookings, but also to empower budget owners and give them the capacity to be fully accountable for their budget. So we implemented Spendesk. Why? Because it's not only a digital card payment, but it's also a spend management tool, as you said before, Luc, with a validation workflow. And when we implemented it, it had this budget module, it still has actually, that we were looking for. And another reason was that it was already well known among PayFiters, as we knew the adoption would be easy. So we implemented the Spendesk, and thanks to that, we gained control on anticipating costs. But it was still a bit complicated to have them booked in the general ledgers, because back in that time, the accounting was fully externalized in each country we were operating in. So it resulted in many top entries that would be booked by the finance team at reporting level in G-Sheet. And the same happened with the analytics that we were missing in the general ledgers communicated by the external accountants. So actually the team would spend a lot of time enriching the general ledgers manually. So this was a loss of time. This was a loss of reliability, of course, because you can be sure a manual top entry in a Google Sheet file has a high probability to never be reverted. And actually the audit trail was super complex and not acceptable any longer in the stage we were in. So we decided to internalize the accounting, and we were looking for a tool, and we chose NetSuite, which is at the center of the stack today. We chose it over SAP because we thought it was more adapted to the scale-up model, more than SAP, and we also had some tech references, among which Spendesk, Upflow, Doctolib, who recommended it to us. And we also chose it because it has an integration with Yora, our invoicing tool that was pre-existent system. So it took us, I would say, roughly 12 months to have it fully implemented for all countries. And we worked with a contractor, anyway, that was recommended by NetSuite, and we chose it because it was very agile and it adapted to our planning and roadmap. So we didn't wait for NetSuite to be implemented to think about what we could do next. And as soon as we chose NetSuite, and so even before starting the implementation, we launched another tender process for our reporting and forecasting tool. Of course, the idea was to choose a tool that would be integrated with NetSuite. And in terms of timing, we were lucky because we had enough bandwidth to start both implementations at the same time. And while we were working on specifications with NetSuite, we built our existing budget in Pigment. The budget we had done in G-Sheet before, we replicated it in Pigment. And as we had already in mind and in G-Sheet the granularity we needed, the business rules we were needing, we knew exactly what the data would look like in Pigment and what we would need to have in NetSuite. So it took us 3 months to have the budget replicated from G-Sheet to Pigment and 12 months to have the accounting in NetSuite and the elaboration of the 23 budget. So I would say that within a year, we had more visibility on expense. We had a validation process. We were exhaustive in the accounting. We internalized the accounting so that we could put the analytics we wanted in the general ledger at the source of the data. And at the same time, we replicated our budget in Pigment. So we get used to Pigment and knew how to build the reporting we wanted to have as an output. And then maybe the most recent tool we implemented is Navan. It's a travel management tool that provides us with a strong validation workflow, but also granular analytics once data are imported in NetSuite. So here it's not a full integration, but we can import a file. And then I mentioned PayFit in the stack. Of course, we use it as we use the payroll data from our own app to have a very granular data with department, team, squad, etc. Directly in the general ledger in NetSuite. So roughly, this is how we built it. First, invoicing with Yora, go cardless to have automatic debit that was already pre-existent, then control on the expense, then control on the accounting, and at the same time designing the reporting we wanted to have on the business view. And then the more we can have and add as analytics, the more we do it. That's why we chose Navan for the expense, the travel management.
Okay, thank you for this really in-depth look at kind of like the overall stack you're using at PayFit. And now the next question is, you know, we're definitely in like this cost-cutting context now. A lot of companies are trying to be lean, trying to reduce any cost possible. So how do you actually measure the ROI of these tools and justify their costs and their impact to stakeholders internally?
Yes, thanks for this question. It's a really good one. I would say that data reliability and a clean audit trail has a cost, but you can grow without it. Once you start having due diligence, auditors, reports to investors, you need robustness on that topic. And then also once the finance team stops spending time on the closing and on manual things, it gains productivity, of course. And so they can focus on business analysis and make key recommendations that can have an ROI. So I would say that once you have implemented these tools, you can be backed up with very reliable metrics, and that has no price. And then you can start being a real business partner with your peers and operations. So yes, it has a cost, but then you gain audit trail, reliability, and you can become a real business partner when you have key metrics and clean metrics. You can be backed with.
Cool, thank you. And now, I mean, we're in this proliferation of AI, and it's now top of mind for, I think, all of us across the organization. Have you considered the use of any emerging technologies like AI? Are you using any currently? And if so, like, what are the concrete examples? And also, like, looking forward, do you have any plans or anticipation of using these kinds of nascent technologies?
It's another super good question. Of course, we as a company address this topic, not only with the finance perspective, but also as a product perspective. That's something we are looking at. For now, we have a lot of American companies providing AI. So, and we know we have limitations in terms of privacy, etc. So we look at it. We are not using it already, but I'm sure we have many efficiencies with AI. On another level, we are working with Pigment concretely, and Pigment is launching an AI like a future check-like interface for smarter and faster business planning, where you can ask scenario in Pigment and that will do the analysis for you. So it sounds really cool. We will be beta tester for them, and I can't wait to see how it works. But that's our next step. That's with our current tool, actually.
Cool. Thank you for that. And so obviously this tool stack is quite well built out. And so looking back at it, let's say if you were to give advice to someone who's just starting out to build out their finance tool stack, what is one thing that you would have done differently at the beginning of building out your tool stack?
I guess we were super lucky because we were able to launch the two tools at the same time, the accounting one and the reporting one. So, but if the context had been different, I would have prioritized the implementation of NetSuite over Pigment, because the accounting data is a source of truth for finance. So I would have done it in that order. And I would say that in that case, the implementation would have needed like a higher level of cross-functional collaboration between the accounting team and the business partnering team to make sure they were super aligned in terms of needs, in terms of analytics, allocation key, business rules needed in the reporting. Because the more you can implement it right at the source, the less you have work to do with your reporting tool, and it's easier. So not saying that these two teams didn't collaborate, but as they were working at the same time together, it was a very natural collaboration. If we had done only the implementation of the accounting tool, it would have been crucial to have this strong collaboration, to be sure what the output would look like and would be easy for the business partner to work with. So that's how I would have done it. But once again, we had this chance to have a bandwidth and dedicated teams for that.
Okay, thank you. And now, so this question might be tough. It might be like asking to pick your favorite child. But what is one tool for you that you can live without, or even like what is the type of tool that for you is like the cornerstone for any finance team?
Of course, as I mentioned, NetSuite is very key, but I already talked about it. So maybe I can mention another tool that is in the chart, but I didn't mention before. It's Equify. Actually, this is the one tool that changed my life. It's an equity and shareholder management tool. It centralizes all the legal information of your shareholders. And before the implementation, I used to spend like hours on updating the cap table on G-Sheet, and not only updating it, but also answering a lot of questions from payfitters about how many stock options they would have, which vesting, how many they could exercise, and this data changes on a monthly basis. So it was very, very heavy to update this information. So for me, it's a great tool, not only because I gained reliability and I don't spend hours any longer on that. It's also a great tool to promote this type of compensation with your employees. So having an equity and shareholders tool, for me, it was key, a very positive change. And then obviously we use Pendesk as a spend management, but also for virtual card payments. And without Pendesk, we would spend a lot of time in reconciliations to be done by my team. So we have nearly more than 100 payments every month with a Pendesk. So it's really useful for the accounting team as well.
Cool. Thank you for that. And so just as a reminder to all of our viewers, if you have any questions, please ask them in the question tab and upvote your favorite questions. We will be answering these questions later, and we'll be answering them based on which questions have the most upvotes. And so we did also ask people to submit questions when they signed up for this event. And so we will have a few of those right now. So there was a question from CJ who asks, how do we minimize the impact of the invisible integration costs, i.e. countless hours of setting up and connecting systems, and that there are often when buying new software to solve manual processes?
Okay. First, I think you need to be very clear on the output and precise on specifications. So my advice would be don't rush and take your time to draw your data flows, integrations needed. By doing that, you will avoid back and forth with contractor or provider. And a good way to do so might be to start with G-Sheet, actually. First, because it's not costly. And I think it's a super tool when you start creating your reporting. You can spend time reflecting on what you want to show, which allocation key, business rules, check, conversion you want. And then you can be very clear on your expectations regarding your tool. So for me, it's a super start to be playing with G-Sheet. And then once you know exactly what you want your report or your output to look like, you feel super confident and you will gain time with your contractor or tool provider. That's the first thing. Then you can also save money by negotiating to be invoiced to the package with a flat fee instead of being invoiced for settlement. So that's another way to reduce your cost. And then finally, I would say that if you have someone in your team, we can dedicate time to play the PMO role. Then you decrease the risk of to delay your implementation, and consequently, you will reduce your potential invisible costs. So 3 tips: being very clear on what you need, don't rush, you might have implications you didn't think about. So don't rush, be very clear. You can negotiate to be invoiced to the package, and if you can have a PMO or someone in your team, then that's perfect. And what you should also maybe anticipate is the fact that once you have a tool, you have invisible costs, but then you also have you need to have someone in your team who will administrate it. So you need to think about it. So you need to have someone who has a profile to do it, the appetence to do it, and you can't rely on only one person as well. So you need to anticipate that. And another thing you need to anticipate is as you will be implementing your tool, you need to think that you will have people to train on it. New joiners, for example, or people in your team. So you also need to spend time on documenting everything you do. This is an invisible cost that you can't reduce.
Yeah, thank you. That is a really nice in-depth answer. So I hope CJ is out there watching and has taken plenty of notes from that answer. So a few other questions. So Daniela Black, this question has over 10 upvotes, is wondering, how do you forecast liquidity?
Okay. So we have no tool for forecasting our cash flows. What we do, so today we have NetSuite, we have a bank platform, Connexis, but that's more for inputting data in NetSuite and access management, validation management. And then what we do, we use G-Sheet, and as we have very little differences between our budget and our cash budget, we do an extract from Pigment on a very granular basis. And then we project when we know we will have cash inflow, outflow, different from what we input. And then we add, of course, non-cash element that we could have, like CapEx, etc. But that's a fair question. This will be, I guess, the next step for us in tool implementation. So next time we speak, we might have a new one in the stack tool. For now, we can deal with it. But once you have many differences and many non-cash movement in your P&L, the job becomes harder, and you need the tool to be reliable. But for now, I don't. I used to have Anaplan in my previous experience, which was really cool. But at PayFit, we still use G-Sheet.
Cool. Thank you for that. Another very popular question from Ahold Afi. And this is a 3-in-1 special. So there's 3 questions in 1 question. So prepare yourself. First of all, how do you monitor cash forecast versus budget? And do you have a consolidated view of all your entities for reporting? If yes, which tool do you use?
Okay, I have 2 questions, cash forecast and consolidated view.
Exactly.
Okay. So cash forecast, I think I just answered. We first do the budget, the EBITDA budget and below EBITDA budget. Then we have it on a monthly basis. We extract it. We look at all the flows. We add all non-cash elements, and then on significant movements with a very different seasonality, like, for example, if you have a quarterly payment of licenses or rent, I don't know, or social taxes, VAT, we input it and we use it in G-Sheet. So that's how we do, and that's how we calculate and we estimate the burn we are going to have in the year. That's one thing. And then for the consolidated view, so we use Spendesk for all entities that we have. So you need to make sure you have common processes, common guidelines. And then in Pigment, In NetSuite and in Pigment, there are multi-entities tool. So we have all our entities in that two tools, and we do the consolidated view in Pigment. That being said, this is only a consolidated reporting view with no IFRS, etc. So it's only a consolidated view of PayFit business that we use internally. We are still externalizing the consolidated IFRS accounts. So this is not something we have internalized yet, and I'm not pretty sure we will do before a couple of months. For now, we have someone who does it externally that helps us with Quadra, I think. That's a tool.
Okay, thank you. Michael Zinos is wondering, how about management reporting, budgeting, and corporate planning?
Okay, so management reporting, that will be what we'll get out of Pigment. And that's a super good question because we have many differences between statutory accounts we have in NetSuite and management account that we use internally for business topics. So what we did is that we have all the local statutory accounts in NetSuite, and then we implemented business rules in Pigment to automate all the reallocation to have our management view. One key point to do that is to be very clean on your transfer pricing, on all the intercompanies you might have between your different entities. And once you have that very clearly, you can define in your tool how you want this to appear, where you want this to appear. If you have one entity with local and global functions, for example, you can define in your tool where you want them to appear. So we use Pigment to design that management accounts that we use internally. Maybe one comment on that. There are two different ways to see it. Either you can have like global cost that you show, and you have local accounts and global accounts, or you will allocate all your global costs to your different local accounts. The positive thing with the second option is that all global costs are reallocated to your country or to your function. It depends how you see things. And then you have a real economic vision in your management account. So there are two ways to do so. I've seen both ways in my different experiences. Either you separate all your global costs or you reallocate them. And I think by reallocating them, you have a better economic view of your accounts. I hope I answered the question.
I hope so too. I know that one of the previous questions you answered from Harold, he gave very positive feedback in the chat and said very, very clear. So it sounds like you are answering questions to people's satisfaction. Another interesting question that has been now upvoted quite high is you can also do the reimbursement of employees for their travel expenses through Spendesk. Was this not an option instead of Navan?
I guess we wanted a tool with a wide catalog. Actually, we can do the bookings through Navan that offers a catalog for nights, flights, trains, etc., etc. And then I guess that was the reason why. And then you have all the validation process that you have in Spendesk, yes. And then I guess the main reason why it was the catalog it offers.
Okay, clear. Julie Petit is asking, is your current stack, do you think your current stack is optimal in your opinion? Because she's noticing that many tools are not fully integrated.
Yes, that's a good one. I would say that today we have just finalized it, so we only see all the positive from that stack. Yes, we still have a manual import, you're right. But for us, I would say that the most important was to have an integration between NetSuite and Pigment. For example, having an integration with Navan would be super useful. It's not that complicated to have an import, a file import. So I would say that for me, the most important is from NetSuite to Pigment. The rest, we can deal with that. But I'm sure we can optimize. I'm sure there is a way to optimize it, and we might do so in the future. But for now, we are already super happy with what we have, and we have. I didn't mention it, but we reduced our closing by a week, thanks to that. And teams spend a lot more time on valuable analysis than they used to. So that's two super positive points. But you're right. I'm sure we could optimize even more.
Yeah, I'm sure you can always optimize, definitely. And I know that you had said Equify for you was also a game changer. Aloy van der Vrecken, sorry if I mispronounced that, is asking, were there any things that stuck out to you choosing Equify over another tool like Legi? Maybe you didn't do that comparison. If not, what are for you like the standout traits of Equify?
Yes. 2 years ago, we did a tender process, and we were looking at Legi and Carta as well. Carta, I guess, but it was an American tool, so we excluded it for GDPR reasons. And we focused on Legi and Equify, and I guess, I can't remember well, we chose Equify for the UX. It was more flexible. And I remember when I did when I was discussing, Equify would gather all the legal information and rebuild the cap table based on that legal information, whereas back in the time, Legi would rebuild it based on my Excel, my G sheet, if I remember well, and that might have changed today. But at the time, I think that's why I chose Equify, because it was based on the legal documentation.
Okay, got you. This question should be quite easy for you. How many employees does PayFit have? And can you describe how the department structure is in PayFit? And also, final question is, how many people are working in your team in the finance and accounting department?
Yeah. So we are 900 payfitters. The finance team is, we are 26 people. In the finance team, we have 3 verticals. One is the accounting team with 10 people. The team is divided by 2, general accounting and billing and cash collection. So these are the 2 teams within the accounting, and they also take care of the fiscal impacts, treasury, etc., relationships with banks. So that's one vertical. Then we have just reorganized the team. So we have a second vertical, which is focusing on business partnering with stakeholders who are very operational, VP sales, VPCS, and they're working on looking at the productivity of these teams at macro level and doing forecasts for the top line. So it's really business oriented. And then we have a third team in which we have business partner for global functions. So less business related, global functions. And they will do the reporting on a geographical view. So it's not really business partnering, it's pure reporting, and then business partnering for non-business related teams. And we also have created procurement a procurement position within that team, so that we have someone to help us when we need a tool.
Okay, thank you for that. Very clear. And we are slowly but surely running out of time, so we'll take a few last questions and then we will wrap it up. This question comes from Andres Vasquez. How many banks do you manage, and how are you connected with them?
What? Sorry.
How many banks do you manage?
How many banks? Okay. How many banks? We have 4 banks. We have 4 banks. So we have different, on a daily basis, the accounting director is dealing with them, having discussions on where we need to have movements, etc. So that's more with the accounting director. And then discussions we might have on financing, for example. That will be something we'll do together. Updating banks, our partners, on our BP actual reporting. That's something I will do also with him. So we have these two levels of relationship, really daily within the accounting team, and then more getting to know their new products, looking for financing solutions, etc., that we will do together.
Okay.
And sorry, maybe to complete my answer, we have banks that we use only for cash deposit, and other banks that we use on a daily basis. It depends on the bank.
Okay, gotcha. And so this is the last question because we were short out of time. This one comes from Martin Byrne, and he asks, other than using Spendesk for virtual card reconciliations, what else do you use for reconciliations on, for example, cash collection? Is it all in NetSuite, Excel, or some other tool?
Yes, for cash collection, we use GoCardless. That's automatic debit. So it's all automatized. Then what is manual is collecting cash that is missing. So when we have clients payment delay, there it's quite manual. But for all the reconciliation, we use GoCardless. That is really helpful, and it's automatized. That's the second step of the cash collection, which is a bit more manual.
Cool, thank you. Well, I think that will do it. So thank you again, Anabelle, for taking the time and really going into depth and talking about this tool stack and taking time to answer the questions from the public. Just looking at the chat, everyone has been very, very happy with your answers, and I think they got a lot out of it. So hopefully they can apply these learnings to whatever they're doing. Also, if you enjoyed this conversation about tools, please let us know in the chat. I think this is a topic that's near and dear to many of your hearts. So we will try to do these more often. As a reminder, CFO Connect is a community for finance leaders. It's powered by Spendesk, and you can apply for free on our website. And finally, don't forget, there will be a recording of this session on YouTube, and we will send you an email with the recording, all the information. Plus, we'll have a special blog recap. So there'll be tons of information that you can go through again. So thanks again to everybody, and a special thanks to Anabelle. Anabelle, have a good rest of your day, and I hope you enjoy the tools. Yeah. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.